So it's almost like you start with a generic keyword and then you kind of go to the more specific location within that keyword. For example, and I'll use in a different niche.
And actually,
Um,
can you just use like ballpoint pen just to make sure we don't give away
sure,
someone
that's
else's niche?
that's perfect. Okay, so instead of saying like best ballpoint pen, I would say like best ballpoint pen in Virginia. But obviously, it wasn't a Amazon type of article. It was like a location type of guide, and I found those to have so much search volume with so much underserved content. Obviously, but researching that topic was a challenge, but I almost started getting better at saying, okay, like what's unique to this location? How can I tweak it towards my website? And then kind of direct my writers on that path. And that made those type of articles a little bit easier and definitely quick to rank.
Very cool. And I have no idea what your niche is, but to that point, I believe, and we could talk more off the record, I think from a link building perspective, because there's a location built in, you have the opportunity to reach out to a lot of small, um, more independent kind of websites in those locations to do link building and just outreach in general. So, again, I have no idea what it is, but when you put locations in there, a lot of new doors open up and a lot of new opportunities. So, have you thought about that at all, by the way?
It's funny you mentioned that. I did one kind of campaign where I wrote an article about a specific area and I reached out to all the businesses in that area and I got responses from four of them and three of them actually wound up like thanking me for the article because I talked about them and they actually linked back to me from their like resources page on their website. I mean, it was a small business, but it was like a unique link that I wasn't really asking for. I was more just saying, hey, like we wrote an article about you. What do you think?
Perfect. That
That worked
is,
out cool.
yeah, I love to hear that. And yeah, you weren't even asking for anything. You were just like networking and becoming someone in the niche. And they're like, hey, cool. No one pays attention to us. We have a small website, but it's so relevant, right? It's like the most relevant kind of link you can get, I imagine.
And even sometimes, I think only one of the businesses did willingly, but they may even provide you like a quote or something to say about them. So it even makes like your article that much more accurate, which is even better.
Very cool. Anything else with the link build or not the link building, with the keyword research portion here?
I noticed that I wound up picking keywords and kind of sticking to that same type of philosophy within that keyword, and obviously like just changing up. So it was almost like I found a really good keyword, saw it ranked, got some traffic, and I almost built that keyword into a category and branched out to like 30 or 40 different type of informational articles that I'm hoping they kind of duplicate that type of growth just because they're clearly being searched and potentially underserved in terms of content on the internet.
Okay.
So that was an interesting thing I saw.
Very cool. And did you happen to use the keyword golden ratio at all, or you went in another route in your previous experience, sort of like you didn't need to use such a structured format like the keyword golden ratio?
So I did use KGR for some Amazon type of keywords, and that was definitely like the second stage. So I kind of put out my first chunk of articles, realized I'm too broad. Then the KGR was starting to say, okay, write an article on Amazon. This is a good topic. And now I was starting to get a few clicks because I was the only one writing an article for that topic that was getting views for Amazon. So that was helpful, and that gave me original traffic in Amazon. And that was honestly probably the real reason I started saying, okay, like good to go to informational articles because the Amazon articles are somewhat working, even if they're only getting a few clicks a day.
Okay, cool. All right, moving on deeper into the content. I think this will be sort of like the meatiest part of the interview because just the sheer volume. I have not published like as much content as you have in such a short period. So tell me about the approach. You mentioned that you started writing yourself, and I'm sure it was helpful that you're interested in the topic and you're knowledgeable. So that was helpful. And then you realized you need to do more. So what did you do to start bringing on more help?
Sure. So yeah, I wrote the first, it was roughly 45 articles or so all on my own. And I was like, okay, this will be a good path to 100. Then when I started doing the keyword research and just realizing how much more topics to be written about, I was like, okay, maybe it's time to start outsourcing. So once I saw there was some type of growth to the website through like Google Search Console, I started looking for writers. And I think this was a process that I definitely failed a lot in the beginning because I kind of went, oh, I'll go with the cheaper writers. and I use internet marketing forums and different type of article writing websites to get content. And at the end of the day, I wound up actually getting the more expensive writers out of all the ones I used. So most of the content was between, I mean, on the low end, I was probably around 2.5 cents a word. And I think on the high side, I got to up 4 cents a word. And I'd probably say most of the content, especially in the big content push parts of it, were probably towards more 4 cents a word. But it was almost like, okay, here's 50 articles based on the keyword research I did. Let me ship it out, have them work on it. I'll come back, see how it looks. And then I really found like a few writing services I just really liked working with. They got the titles right. They hit the subheadings, the H2 subheadings really well. And it was starting to become a lot more of me copying it, pasting it, reading it over quickly, spending 5 minutes rather than saying, okay, write this article. And I spent like 45 minutes rewriting it, which was getting a little frustrating. But it was honestly worth the extra few dollars I spent per 1,000 words just to get that article that was ready to go. In terms of content push, so I'd say after April going into May was probably another slower month of content. But the real big push was in June. And I think June I put just over 90 articles out. And I really started getting the hang of the keyword research and understanding what topics I wanted my writers to write about. And July was the biggest month in terms of content with 150 articles added. I think so far, well, I guess August is done now, but I probably have a few more I want to put up tonight. But August was probably another one of those 90 months. So I think the overall part of that is the big push of content was the last 3 months. And if that's roughly 330 articles, that means I got a lot that are hopefully sitting in the sandbox ready to rank as the next few months unfold.